Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. As you guys can see, some things have changed drastically around here and other stuff not so much. But sure is amazing what 3 months do with a puppy. Anyway, on this episode, as you guys can see off camera here, the door is finally painted for the passenger side. I was able to get that done and it turned out pretty good. This episode is going to be showing you guys that process and how that went. And also got a few other things painted that I'm probably not going to show, but I did get the door hinges painted for that so I can get it mounted on the cab permanently and at least get this side kind of, you know, back together, final assembled. And also got some of the interior stuff painted, glove box door and a few other things. So maybe I can get some interior progress started as well in the near future. Oh, and good news, I was able to finally get some more clear coat. So I got another gallon of clear, so I'll be able to get some other stuff painted as well. Still haven't quite decided if I want to tackle that son of a bitch of a door or if I'm just going to go to the bed. I really would like to get the door done though, just so I can get it on, fender on, and actually start getting the hood done. I'd almost rather get the cab, you know, the front part of the truck finished and then do the bed last. It just seems like common sense, but I never do anything that makes sense half the time anyway. So anyway, that's where we're at. So for those of you who are wondering how much paint am I going through to paint this entire thing, I can give you guys numbers now that's going to probably be pretty final. It looks like to finish this thing out, it's going to have taken 3 gallons of epoxy, 3 gallons of high build primer, 2 gallons of base, you know, black base coat, and 3 more gallons of clear. So yeah, that's a lot. It's a lot of supplies. And I mean, obviously, if you were just doing a paint job, you would not need near that. But where like every square inch of this truck is getting painted, it's taking a lot of materials to do. So that's where I'm going to be at to get this thing finished. You're actually being good for once. Good job, Maggie. All right, well, at least the passenger door here is finally ready for final paint. And everything turned out pretty good. I am glad I went over it one more time and really eyeballed this thing because I noticed a few little spots here that I missed with the second coat of primer, and I was able just to fill those with some 3M putty. They're very small spots. I'm pretty sure at least this area right here was one of the holes that I welded up when it had the big camper mirrors on it, and just a few little imperfections that didn't get completely smoothed out. So I'm glad I found that. Would have seen that in the final paint. This, not a really big deal because it would be under the mirror, but just one little small spot there as well. Other than that, looks pretty good. I went over all the edges here and made sure to bevel those nicely and also open them up pretty much to where metal is, because you don't want to have these keep filling in and filling in and filling in, especially the lock hole with different layers of paint, because then you won't be able to get stuff in once all those layers are built up. So I did sand those out really well, so there shouldn't be a problem once everything's painted with 4 to 5 layers of clear on this thing. One thing I will say, I really didn't go all out with the jams. I mean, to me, it's not going to be a $250,000 show car. So as far as completely body working, the jams front and rear, I did not do that. They did get primer, they did get sanded, so it will be fairly smooth, but it's not going to be perfection. It's not going to be like glass. I mean, you can see a little bit of rippling in here with the stamping still shows. So I don't go that far with the stuff I do. It's a lot more time, and I don't feel that my builds are on that next tier level. So for the type of work I'm doing, it's just better to save the time and not do those certain areas where, you know, some guys paying $20, $30, $40,000 for a paint job would definitely hit those areas with probably filler and get them perfectly smooth. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but it seems like some of the show cars I've seen in the past, especially places like Condigot Design and also Hutton Creations with Charlie Hutton, you know, they would definitely take that extra step. They would definitely body work every single square inch of this, whether or not it's really going to be seen or not. That's just that next tier level that I just don't want to spend the time to do. So now, next step is going to be go over the entire thing at least one more time with some wax and grease remover with a clean cloth, and then also hit it with tack rag. Then go ahead and spray my sealer coat. Again, I use a slightly thinned down DP90 for the sealer, and then I'm going to hit my coats of base, clear. All those layers build up, and hopefully it looks good when it's done. And I've got a lot of hours in this door, really more time than I should have spent, but I wanted to try and make sure to get this thing as flat as possible, because this was obviously a 50-year-old door that had a lot of little dings, dents, and imperfections in it. And so being black like the rest of it and being such a flat panel, I tried to take my time on it and get it right. So far, so good. Think I can move forward with it, get some paint on it. Again, with this door, the main problem areas were down here at the bottom. This was slightly wavy. There was a little skim coat of filler that had to be applied here to get this lower half nice and flat. And then the big, huge, giant ass camper mirrors had holes drilled all over. Those had to be filled, and even had one of the, like I said, giant mirrors. So there was a hole up here, all the way down to here, multiple in between. Those had to be filled, but overall the door was in pretty good shape. As well as the door also had cutouts for 6-inch speakers that someone had put in as well, so I had to also weld that up. But I mean, sheet metal wise, there wasn't a lot to do on the door, just a lot of body work to get it nice and smooth. Okay, so got the first coat underway. Sealer is on. From here, going to build up with the base coat, and so far it looks good. Bodywork looks like it turned out fairly smooth. I don't see anything really jumping out at me at this point, but being a matte black, it's not going to show everything as it would if it was gloss, but so far everything looks all right. The lighting in here kind of sucks just because the lights in my shop have to shine through the plastic I've got for the paint booth, but you can see fairly well in here. On to the base. Okay, here we have it after 3 coats of DBC 9700 black, obviously. And you could probably get by with doing just 2 coats of base over the epoxy sealer, but I like to do 3 just because of all the little nooks and crannies, little areas up, around, and everywhere. And if you do 3 coats, you're more likely to hit every spot and not miss anything and have any bleed through. But again, with the epoxy and 2 coats, 3 coats of base is just a little bit of extra added insurance in the end product. There is one little spot that I noticed I missed with the bodywork right there. Good thing it's going to be covered up by a mirror. Now here's the really scary thing. I don't know if I've got enough clear. I've probably got about a quart when it's all mixed out. There's not a quart in here. So I'm hoping that I've got enough clear. I like to spray on heavy, so hopefully I've got enough to finish this. Otherwise, that could be an issue. We'll find out soon enough. If not, ordering more clear was a good choice or a bad choice. I was painting away, happy as can be, and then all of a sudden I heard this very unusual sound followed by a loud bang. And what normally is a very happy compressor that I use turned into a very sad compressor. Yeah, that's the connecting rod. Snap that baby right in half, and now all I'm left with is just a really loud noisemaker. So as you can imagine, not very happy. Well, like my mom always says, if it weren't for my bad luck, I'd have no luck at all. And because of that, started painting, well, should say started doing the clear coat. Had to come up with something quick, so I hurried up and went in my garage and got my backup compressor going and finished getting the clear done. However, I was able to get the door finished, but it does look like shit. Ended up being a lot of stuff in the paint. Was in a hurry, and I missed a bunch of little pieces in the paint. And as always, it wouldn't be complete by me if I didn't end up with at least one run. So that's going to have to be cut and buffed, obviously, as well as the whole door. This thing's got quite a bit of shit in the paint. If I can focus, yeah, right there is the biggest of most of them, but there are, let's say, garbage in the paint, or let's say there is garbage in the paint. So I'm gonna have to just let this completely dry and then cut and buff the whole door. I'm not even going to touch it because it's only been about a half hour, and so this is still flowing and it's still drying as we speak. Also ended up with a couple little fun little runners right there. So yeah, not too happy with how this turned out, but you know, is what it is. I did, however, have enough clear coat. So, I mean, that was one good thing that happened, I guess I should say. The rest of it, though, well, we'll see how it looks after cut and buff. It should be salvageable. So, I'm going to let this dry overnight, at least before I move it, but I'm definitely going to let it dry for a week before I cut and buff. I don't like to cut and buff fresh paint 24 hours later. I know it makes it a lot easier, but I would rather have a hard surface I have to buff a little bit longer than a soft surface that I'm going to cut through because of my inexperience. And clearly there's some inexperience going on, or that shit wouldn't happen. And clearly you can probably tell that the paint's still wet because the snap it's making as I pick my feet up, and my feet are sticking to the floor of my paint booth. So how did our door turn out? Well, you know, it actually turned out pretty good. It looks pretty much like it did in the paint booth. It's been sitting here for a couple days, so there is some dirt and dust that's accumulated on it. So all the stuff you see isn't actually stuff in the paint. Some might be, but a lot of it is just debris that's sitting on top. And it turned out really nice and flat. I mean, I'm very, very happy with the body work. It's just more how the clear coat laid on that I'm unhappy with. But everywhere looks pretty good except for my, run right there. So we'll get this thing on the truck. I'm actually not going to cut and buff this, I don't think, right now, because there's still some areas on the truck that I still have not touched yet. And I think I am just going to assemble the whole thing, and I'm going to cut and buff the entire truck as one I think it just makes more sense to do it that way. It might be better to do these individually, but I'm gonna put it all together, and cut and buff is one. So that's where we're at in the build process as of right now. The hinges are still in the booth. They got sprayed about 2 days ago, so I'm gonna let them sit another day or two and let the clear coat harden. Gonna get those mounted on the door and then get the door mounted back on the truck, and hopefully it fits as well as it did when I took it apart when the truck was in primer. That's the goal. Fingers crossed, and that'll be the next step in the process, and then probably going to go back to that other damn door and see what can be done with it, unfortunately. So anyway, thanks everybody for watching. Again, all those that have stayed subscribed to me in the past, thank you guys. It helps building the channel. Every subscriber helps, so I appreciate you guys. Until next time, we'll see you guys later. Have a good one. And Maggie says goodbye too. Good girl. Savor it. This is the only time she's actually being good.